We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We respectfully acknowledge that the community of the municipality of Highlands East is located in the Treaty 20 Michi-Sagag territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Sagag and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. The community of the municipality of Highlands East respectfully acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing the agenda.
That the agenda for the regular meeting of council of March 24, 2026 for the purpose of the short-term rental licensing program and bylaw review be approved as circulated.
Someone move. Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor McKenzie. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Minutes.
That council for the municipality of Highlands East approves the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 10th, 2026.
If someone move. Deputy Mayor Ryle, second by Councillor Strong. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. I have a few opening remarks for the meeting, and we'll certainly have them now. And I just certainly like to welcome everybody to the meeting today, and thank you so much for taking time to come. You can't hear me? You should have stopped me earlier, Mary. I can start again, I guess. Is that better? I'll decide on that. I'll decide on that, but can you hear me now? We'll try this. How is that better? Because I think our IT people are looking at it there. You can move them any place you want. Come on up here instead if you want. Well, that's why we may be looking at some council chambers. Circle around. Travis, are you making any headway? Where'd Mary go? Mary, the steps are there for you. Anyway. Oh, can you hear me? Good to see you, Mary. How are you feeling? My neighbor. Okay, here we go. Thank you for coming again. I don't know whether you heard that or not, and either being here in person or virtually and throughout the live stream, possibly. The purpose of today's public meeting is to receive input from stakeholders, visitors, residents, and licensed operators of short-term rentals in Highlands East on the existing program, including requirements of the program, compliance, expectations, and overall intent of the bylaw. Interested parties are invited to share their experiences with the program, any issues or concerns they have encountered with the current short-term rental licensing program, and any suggestions or proposal improvements that they may wish to put forward to council's consideration. For today's public meeting, the procedure will be the following during the meeting as follows. Municipal staff will provide council with an overview on the short-term rental licensing program and bylaw review to date, along with associated stats. Following the staff report, those who have registered to speak will be invited to address council and will have up to 5 minutes to share their comments or ask any questions they may have. Individuals will be called upon in order which the requests were received by staff. Prior to addressing council, please state your name and for the record. We ask speakers to respect the allotted time available to build and to build off each other's comments rather than repeat statements council's already heard, and communicate in a respectful manner. For members of the public who have provided written submissions, they have been included in the agenda for council's consideration. If you have not registered to speak and time permits, you will be provided an opportunity to speak following those that have registered, if time does permit. And if you do have the opportunity to speak before council, we ask that you submit your comments in writing to the STR staff so they will be included in the minutes. A member of the public may not address council without permission, interrupt any speakers or proceedings, behave in a disorderly manner, make any noise or sound that proves disruptive so we can hear. We don't really allow signs or posters in the room while the meeting is being conducted. So please ensure that your cell phones are muted if you haven't already done so. We ask that you respect this process so that we can hear from as many interested parties as possible. I'll now turn it over to our CAO to share the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Good morning, members of council and members of the public. Just for this morning, just a brief overview of how we got to where we are today. So on behalf of our STR licensing clerk, Olivia Petrick, she has recently begun her maternity leave. So I'll be presenting this information on her behalf. So as everyone is very fully aware, on April 9th of 2024, council did pass our short-term rental licensing bylaw, which came into force in effect on October 1st, 2024. At our February 10th, 2026 council meeting, council directed staff to undertake a short-term rental licensing bylaw and program consultation. And at that time, council did direct that written submissions be received, an online and paper survey be conducted with direct outreach to the licensed operators, and that a brief summary report also be included at our March 10th, 2026 meeting. The meeting was to take place today at 9:30 a.m. So just a little bit of background about the review and engagement to date. The public meeting announcement was released on our website March 2nd. It was emailed directly to our operators and applicants March the 3rd. We have quite a few different comments and speakers today, which we welcome. It is a hybrid meeting, which is being live streamed via YouTube. Members were also invited to submit any written comments by 4 p.m. yesterday. So by the time the agenda was published last week, anything further that came in after that has been circulated to council and will also make part of the public record once the minutes are published. Again, the survey was then released March the 5th on our website, and paper copies also available at the municipal office. The survey information was again emailed directly to the operators and applicants, and submissions are being accepted for 1 month after the survey release date. So April the 2nd is when our survey closes. As of the date of the report, we received a total of 102 surveys, and as of last evening when we checked again, we now have 119 responses. So just ahead of our meeting today, we just wanted to provide a little bit of statistical background with regards to the program at the end of 2025. And those statistics have been included for council's and the public's review. These statistics discuss the number of identified short-term rentals, which are in and around the Highlands East area, and the number of listings that have been also found on Airbnb. This is where these numbers differentiate as the host compliance software that we utilize. It can't necessarily, if there's no address tied to it, it sees the listing, but it can't determine whether or not it is a Highlands East short-term rental. At the end of 25, we did have 109 applications received, 73 approved with 28 pending, and 8 of those applications denied.
With regards to the municipal accommodation tax that was collected, by the end of Q4 of 2025, the municipality did receive a total of $41,329.14 in municipal accommodation tax revenues. And again, half of those MAT funds are then to be transferred to the Municipal Services Corporation as established by the County of Haliburton. And those monies are to be used for tourism-related initiatives within the county, and the Municipal Service Corporation will determine how their portion of funds is then to be spent. To date, the municipality has not spent any portion of the MAP monies raised through our short-term rental program. The monies that we have raised have been allocated into an associated municipal accommodation tax reserve, and then council will then determine how they wish to spend the funds that have been raised. At the end of Q4 of 25, for licensing fees, we did collect a total of $55,773.85. And so these licensing fees do help support the administration and support costs of our program. We do utilize software from Granicus, and that contract, which has been effective since the end of March, beginning of April of 2024, to utilize host compliance is an annual cost of $28,379 plus applicable taxes, and that is in Canadian funds. And just again, for some of council's information, we just included a couple of statistics with regards to the program regarding the number of inspections that were completed through the program in order for licensed operators to receive their licenses, including fire, building, and bylaw inspections. The total number of complaints that were received at the end of 25 included a total of 30. And some of the infractions also that were identified and resolved were incorporated in our report as well. And the last little bit of statistical information is just with regards to the appeal cases, which has been referred to the appeal committee at the County of Haliburton. So for Highlands East, we've had 2 files that have been referred to the appeals committee, with one of those being granted their license and the other being denied. And so with that, I will turn it over to Mayor and Clerk.
Okay, we'll move into delegations and I believe Elizabeth Oakley is coming in by virtual. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you see and or hear me?
Can't see you yet.
That's bizarre. Okay, the video is up, but maybe you just get stuck with my dulcet tones coming out of a cold, so I apologize. I've been deathly ill. We'll just get into it. Okay, good morning, Mayor Burton and Council. I'm here today to ask questions about the short-term rental bylaw and to suggest areas for improvement going forward. But first, I want to sincerely thank all of you for doing what so far no other council in Haliburton has chosen to do, which is to take a pause, examine how the first year of the STR's bylaw implementation has gone, including what works, what doesn't, and with the hope that through consultation and feedback, a more reasonable and less onerous STR program will be created. To state the obvious, the STR bylaw put in place has not been a smooth ride. And while no one seems eager to admit it, mistakes were made from the very beginning when we, the STR hosts, were not included in the creation of the bylaw. Instead, so-called experts were brought in to sell you on things like the municipal accommodation tax with estimated revenues based on completely unrealistic figures. With respect, Scott Ovell sold you a false bill of goods, saying the average yearly accommodation of STR hosts here sits at 65%. This is an outrageous exaggeration of the truth. Here in Highlands East, our busiest season remains over July and August, and if we're lucky, that means we're averaging about 20% accommodation, not 65%. So right there is an example of what happens when you take the word of an official, not the actual on-the-ground hosts. So I've listed a bunch of questions here, and some of them have already been answered. which I appreciate, including the raising of MAT fees and that sort of thing, and how Granicus is paid. I just heard for the first time today that that's in Canadian dollars. And we know about complaints, we know about appeals. That's great. Number 9 of my question we haven't figured out, which is the tourism promotional projects funded by the money through the MAT and any tangible proof. Well, obviously I'm putting the cart before the horse, so apologies for that, but we should know that soon. And then also number 10, which has been a contentious issue with a lot of our members through our Facebook Airbnb group. Why was an online map with STR locations shown posted on the Highlands East website without the consent of hosts? Big, big, big privacy issues there. Most of the STR hosts who operate here in Highlands East want to follow the rules and behave responsibly. We have gone along with the program despite voicing our concerns being disregarded continuously. We pay our licensing and renewal fees, as well as the MAT quarterly fees, operating essentially as business partners with the municipality. So we demand transparency on the STR bylaw, lay everything out on the table for everyone to see. When council was presented the possible income that municipalities could earn, members were quick to jump on board. However, it doesn't take a PhD in mathematics to ascertain that Haliburton County officials misled Highlands East councillors. The earnings have not and will not materialize to the amounts promised. As such, perhaps it's time to admit the errors that have taken place in rolling out the STR bylaw and start fresh. Here are some of my suggestions. Create a tier-based system for single STRs, including those where it's their primary residence, like my own, and those who run multiple rental spaces. This could and should be reflected in the fee structure. With multiple listings, operators are paying far more than single primary residence or seasonal rental units. The online map showing STR locations should be taken down immediately, as it was posted illegally without the consent of STR hosts. MAT tax should be reduced to 2% to remove the financial burdens from STR hosts. Remove the Granicus service fees. This is a big one. That was not posted ahead of time. Allow for e-transfers like those for residential tax payments. Provide regularly monthly reports both on STR revenues and, more importantly, program costs. Granicus' share, staff costs. Recorded council votes on STR matters. Regular communication with STR hosts, not just when the next MAT payment needs to be made or licenses be renewed. Regular notifications on how our MAT dollars are being spent. Remove the shoreline road allowance purchases as criteria for licensing. This is a big problem, and I don't think anyone saw this coming. We have a lot of members who have tried to run their Airbnb, their short-term rental, and have faced this exorbitant cost and have subsequently said, forget it. They're selling their cottages, they're taking down their rentals, all because you are making it more expensive for them to operate. And at the end of the day, we're bringing in tourist dollars, and that's what you guys want. So don't make it harder for people. And then the other one, alter septic requirements to be more reasonable. Some hosts, like myself and my partner, live 10 months in their primary homes with just 2 people. So therefore, the septic load is not a factor. STR hosts in Highlands East deserve to be treated with respect, clarity, and transparency. Being treated as greedy troublemakers is an inaccurate characterization of who we are, and we're tired of the top-down, take it or leave it approach. It should be a collaboration, not a dictatorship. After all, we, the hosts, are the ones paying for the licensing, paying for the MAT tax, and in some cases going into debt, having to pay for shoreline road allowances and septic upgrades. The STR bylaw review gives everyone a chance to sit at the table, lay everything out to both hosts and the broader public, so they know exactly what the facts are rather than what the messaging Highlands East controls. If the STR program is not sustainable financially, everyone, taxpayers included, need to know. If there are changes to be made because of errors in the bylaw's implementation, then we can discuss and debate them and find solutions together. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth. We probably don't need a lot of clapping today, thank you. But we are fact finding today, and we are going to compile all the information, and we are going to probably call another meeting. But thank you so much for your input. We'll now have Chris Williams. Welcome, Chris.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, maybe turn the volume up a bit, Chris, if you will.
I've turned the volume up to maximum if as possible. And can you see the slides that I have prepared ahead of time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, thank you, Council, for the time. I'm going to try and be as brief and pointed as possible. I'm the president of the Minnetonka Lake Cottagers Association. There's about 55 cottages on our small lake. There's about 7 short-term rentals on the lake. Some are licensed and some are not. I've been in the position for about 2 years. We have a short-term rental right beside our particular property. So we're very familiar with how these things are run. And also I'm a former board member of the Ontario Tourism Board that promotes tourism for the province. I'd like to start off with saying, support for the STR regulations. I mean, you really don't have any choice since the Quebec fire and the liabilities to the owners and to the province and the municipalities that caused. So it has been the right decision. You have to generate the revenue for registration, et cetera. And it's the only way to really manage the noise, the septic, the fire prevention liabilities. And also you have to start looking at limiting the number of users per property. As pointed out, the devil is in the details. So you're doing the right thing, looking into obviously the revenue that's being developed, and also the numbers of compliance. I was using you'll see I've used some numbers from what I've seen. I have the numbers wrong. You guys have the numbers right, but clearly the direction is there needs to be more. We need to have more revenue from the licensing to address the problems that are being caused. The cost of Granicus versus the value that they provide is a question. We also have to think about the zoning because these are actual businesses that are active in shoreline residential zones. Longer term, we have to think about impact taxation because these are businesses, not homes in some cases. We also have to think about limiting STRs per lake before real estate value collapses. And we've seen this in other jurisdictions in places like Barcelona and other sort of major tourist places where essentially the city has hollowed out and become entirely STRs. The key point is that enforcement protects the value of licenses for well-managed STRs. There are well-managed STRs out there that are doing a really good job. I do try through the association to network the good STRs with the bad STRs to say, what are you guys doing that helps you manage so well versus the other ones who are causing issues? You've seen the numbers. These are the numbers that I just pulled off the site. I'm just going to sort of carry on. It's not I have them wrong, but I think the recommendations are that one of the things is you can work with lake associations to compile the complete list of STRs. We actually know names, addresses of the actual STRs that are being rented on the lake. We can do a better job than Granicus can for free. You just have to reach out to the lake associations and say, can you tell us who they are? We also want to see that you limit the number of licenses per lake. And this is going to be a big problem once you start to get into, right now we're about 10%, but if you get to 20%, 30% of the lake being STRs, then things start to fall apart. Road associations don't work, lake associations don't work, and all sorts of issues start to come out from there. I think you also have to get into proactive enforcement of unlicensed rentals. And that has been some of the complaints that we've had to forward through the portal to say, look, this is an unlicensed rental STR that is operating. We know it's unlicensed and the operator doesn't care. And they're trying to stall as long as they can. We think that the MAT revenue should be focused on licensed participation until the system is strong. So get out there and start promoting that. I think you can probably dump Granicus for an in-house capacity and create a local job. Some of the demerit point systems need to be transferred into fines that create revenue because it is causing a problem. And then I think you also have to look at separating STR businesses from STR private owners, as the previous delegate talked about. There's a two-tier system here. One is businesses, and then the other one is just a cottage owner that's renting their cottage. Just as an example of working with lake associations been counting loons for 40 years. We managed to do this for free and do a good job. There's no reason why we can't count SDRs and pass that over to the municipality. I think you need to do a licensing blitz. Again, the numbers are wrong. There's probably about 100 unlicensed SDRs in Highlands East. So there's about $50,000 worth of revenue waiting to be collected. I think you need to be pushing very hard to get compliance on this. And if it means that you just collect the money and issue a temporary license upfront, that's fine. Get to the inspections after the fact. I think you could also run a radio campaign to drive temporary license application, because essentially you could say, here's a deadline, get signed up before July 1st, because after that, we're going to have proactive people who are booking SDRs. And if you're unlicensed, then that will create a fine. The revenue will be neutral to the municipality because you will charge them back any sort of booking fees. And it'll all fall on the operator if they continue to operate as unlicensed SDRs. Just explaining that a little bit. Licenses per lake. I mean, this is something that's a little further down the road, but it is going to be a big problem. People do not want to own a cottage next door to an SDR, so their property values are dropping if you live right next to that. And there's one person on our lake. We've seen this cottage turn over 3 times because they're right next to an unlicensed, poorly managed STR. Essentially, it's called a party pit. And basically, they sit there every weekend and constant stream of parties all the time. And so they're like, what is the value of this property? They dump it. And so it goes on and on and on. What it also means is that the zoning has become irrelevant. You've got businesses that are operating in residential zones, and it's very transient. Constant celebrations of newcomers every 3 to 7 days. We have to recognize that there's really 2 types of SDRs. There's the occasional renter, and then there's the business operation. And you might think that the business operation is actually the more of the challenge. It's actually not the case. The professional ones actually do a pretty good job of as what we've seen. It's the ones who are sort of in and out of the business. They're not paying as much attention to who they're renting to as much. Here's where it gets more important, is that, when you're in a business, you should be taxed as a business. And MPAC looks at these things quite differently. There's residential properties that look at property values, commercial properties look at cash flow. And so when you are a business operating a hotel on a lake, you should be charged tax based on commercials, your commercial approach. And so you can get into sort of creating those tiers. Also, it becomes a question of, what about the properties next door to the STR? When MPAC looks at the value of their property value is going down. So your taxation against the properties surrounding STR is going down over time. Again, it's a long-term issue, but you have to start thinking about the combination of residential and business together. So, in summary, lax enforcement means low enrollment. We've seen a number of STRs on our lake that basically are like, why should we get a license? No one's going to chase after us. It's not a big deal. No one's stopping our rentals. So that creates a problem, not only with them, but it's also with the ones that are the well-managed ones are like, why did I pay all this money for a license when other people are allowed to operate without one? I don't think demerit points are very valuable. You need to go straight to fines. And have that enforced. And what I mean by fines is when there's too many people within an STR over the limits, come in and fine them. Don't give them demerit points and give them leeway. It's literally like should be just a ticket that's added to their taxes. I think the external management program is expensive and ineffective. It's too arm's length, too far away. They don't come in and actually do anything as far as we can tell. And then we also have to think about these longer term implications that I've mentioned, the lake limits and the taxation. Again, I thank you for your time at looking at these issues, and I think you're on the right path. I just encourage you to do more and faster.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris, and it's well documented.
Thank you.
We're going to move into the in-person part now, and Ian Spearing, please. There's a podium here, Ian.
Sorry about that. Can everybody hear me now? Sorry, I was a bit late this morning. I apologize. I missed the presentation by sorry.
Brittany?
Okay. Okay, anyway, well, compared to that last guy, I'm a little bit lax, I guess, in my presentation. I was really wanting to speak to like my experience as a cottage owner who has applied and received a short-term rental license last year. So I went through the process. I'm having a lot of difficulty this year. I really quick. So last year I applied. In January I received a conditional license, a conditional on inspection, a fire inspection, and a site inspection. All right, that happened later in the year. Passed those. Got my license approved finally in June. So I wasn't really sure when I had to, like when my renewal date was. Was it January? Was it June? So I went to apply this year. I was told by Olivia that I'd missed my renewal time and I had to reapply again. So I have to send all this documentation. Well, it's all the same stuff. It's a septic hasn't changed, fire plan hasn't changed, parking schematic hasn't changed. Pictures of the cottage is the same. Everything's the same. So when I applied, I got an email back from Ms. Petrick that the septic plan, which is the same that I submitted last year, I'm only approved for a 3-bedroom cottage, whereas I was approved my cottage is 4-bedroom, and for some reason, like the same septic documents say I can't have a 4-bedroom cottage this year, which affects parking. You know, because and also I go through an agency, so the agency rents based on 2 people per bedroom. So I have a 4-bedroom, so 8 people, which it's a larger cottage, so that's appeals to certain demographic. Yeah. So for whatever reason, the septic thing that was approved last year for 4-bedroom is no longer good. It goes to 3. So I had to actually call the gentleman that put my septic tank in, who was actually married to the former county septic inspector. So I figured they knew what they were doing. Anyways, he sent me this email, which I'll show later at the town office, saying, yes, it is good for a 4-bedroom. But I mean, but in the meantime, they wanted me to change my fire plan from a 4-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. And why does that, what am I going to do? Shut a bedroom off? It doesn't change the fire plan at all. And the fire inspector didn't even seem to be interested in the fire plan when he came. He just wanted to make sure my smoke alarms were there and his carbon monoxide alarm was there and they were all in place. So again, this speaks to, I think, some of the previous things, that there is a bit of a lax, and then when we saw, in my site inspection, I had a shed built between my cottage and the lake, which I did not know contravened to bylaw. It says you can't have that. So I moved it to the back of my cottage. All right, everything was approved. You go around the lake, everybody's got a shed between the cottage and the lake. So I don't know what the purpose of having that in there is, but okay, I know I'm applying for a license. Yes, that's a bylaw. I got to, okay, I got it. But there were other ones on the lake I know are rentals. I've seen them on Airbnb, and they've still got their structures on in between. So either they didn't apply for a license, in which case, where's the enforcement? Or they're just doing it and asking the municipality, okay, come and sue me, kind of thing. I'm just, so I guess it sort of speaks to Mr. Williams' point, is like, well, if you're going to do this program, okay, everybody who's renting, it's got to be enforced. It's, where is this? I mean, personally, I don't like the idea of municipal accommodation tax. I think that's a disincentive to have tourists come up. I get it. If you're in Niagara Falls, you can charge whatever you want. But up here, you want people to come and see the, you want tourists to come. And if you're taxing them, I think that's a disincentive. So that's that's my point on this. But I mean, like I go, and again, I do still go through an agency, so they collect and remit the tax to the town. So at least there's that administrative hassle out of my plate. But I mean, obviously, it's worse for them. And then, like I think as people have said, and I mentioned in my submission that, if people don't feel this program is fair or it's burdensome to, to go through this every year, well, we could say, hell, I'll just go under the table. Like, I'm not afraid to, that may not make me the most popular guy in the room right now, but it's like, I've tried to comply. I was awarded a license. It should just be a simple matter of checking boxes. If nothing has changed since last year, yes, cottage picture's the same, septic is the same, number of bedrooms the same, parking's the same. Yes, possibly every 5 years you send a site, someone to make the inspection or make the license good for 5 years. I'll give you the $500 every year fine to administer the program. I'm not, I get there's a cost to it, but I mean, yeah. So I think that's, without giving everybody my life story, I think that probably sums up a lot of cottagers' experiences who are frustrated with the you were trying to be legal participants in the community, and I do rent my cottage the majority of the summer. I don't, but we still enjoy it. It's not a business by any chance. Yes, we make money off it. Yes, my agent makes money off it, but she's a local business, so. If she starts losing clients because people just, oh, the hell with it, she has to have, obviously she needs someone. They're renting cottages, the owners have to have STRs. I get that. But if there's a lot of frustrated owners, they just say, well, the hell with it. They're going to, the businesses are going to suffer. So, I guess my recommendation is make the program like less burdensome administratively. Let's have, an easier renewal process. The application process is still, it is cumbersome to gather all the documentation, your insurance, your deed, okay, a couple of pictures, no big deal there. But again, doing up a septic plan, digging your septic plan, if you have it. I did, fortunately, because mine is a newer system. So I had it easily accessible, but I understand older cottages may not have that. Parking plans, fire plans, like this is a lot of stuff to go through. I do understand the need for some of it. If the municipality's licensing, the place has to have working smoke alarms and adequate parking. I get that. So, I mean, well, once you've applied, you've got your STR. Let's just have the process more streamlined to renew. And I just want to go on. I know you're not taking questions directly here, but another big issue that came with me, they want your entire insurance policy now, like, whereas before proof of insurance was all, or confirmation from your insurance company was all that was required. I'm not sure why the municipality worries about that. Like if the place burns down or is trashed, that's my problem, not the municipalities. So I think just, we should revert back to just simple confirmation of insurance that you get from your insurer, your broker, be forwarded on to the town just to show that you are insured. And then rather than have the entire policy sent in, I'm not sure what that's all about. So anyways, I think that is it for me.
All right, Ian, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
We have Lindsay Watling. Welcome, Lindsay.
I wrote this down so I don't mess it up. Good morning and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. For some of you, my name is Lindsay Watling and you may know my husband and I. We are the owners of the Wilberforce Service Center. Can you hear me okay? I feel like this is above my head.
That's better.
There we
Thank you.
go. So like everyone here today, I care deeply about our community and I want to see it continue to grow, thrive, and remain a place where families and businesses can succeed. Today, I would like to speak about the importance of the short-term rentals, not just for the property owners, but for the long-term sustainability of our entire community. We are a tourism-driven township, and every summer our population grows significantly, and these visitors are essential to keeping our small businesses operating. However, we simply do not have the infrastructure to support tourism through hotels alone. The nearest accommodation, as you know, is in Bancroft, which is about 35 minutes away, and or Halliburton, which could be up to 40 minutes away at Pinestone. That distance matters. Because when visitors cannot stay here, they don't sleep here. And when they don't sleep here, they don't spend their money here, they spend it elsewhere. And when that happens, that is a massive missed opportunity that for truly, let me try it again. Sorry. And when that happens, they also miss the opportunity to truly experience the culture and character of our community. Our township is proudly known as the geocaching capital of Canada, attracting visitors from all over the world. Each year, an incredible volunteer group organizes events that bring hundreds of new visitors to our area. In 2018, we were featured in the CBC television program Still Standing, which brought national attention to our community and gave us the opportunity to showcase the very best of what our area has to offer. Our community is a year-round destination for visitors, we are rich in mining history and geology, which attracts rockhounds and outdoor enthusiasts from across the region. We are also located less than 25 kilometers from the east gate of Algonquin Park, which also welcomes thousands of visitors a year. In the winter months, we are proud to have some of the best snowmobile trails in Ontario. Our local Potash Trailblazer Snowmobile Club has consistently been recognized as the top snowmobile club in the province. And those same trails continue to bring visitors in warmer months, with many of them being maintained and enjoyed by riders through the Halliburton ATV Association. My apologies. Because of these unique attractions, our area welcomes visitors throughout every season of the year, not just during the summer months. Many of these visitors come through my business. They're excited, they're curious, and they're eager to learn about the area, and some are even scouting out a new place to call home. But over the past year, we have noticed a change. More and more of these visitors are simply passing through, telling us that they are staying in Halliburton or Bancroft because they were unable to find accommodations locally. That represents a huge loss, not only financially, but culturally. Those visitors did not get the full experience of our community, and our community did not get the full benefit of their presence. From June to September of 2025, our business experienced approximately a 30% decline in revenue. And in my experience, that decline was not due to weather. It was due to fewer people staying in our community. Short-term rentals support something even larger than tourism. They support our ability to respond to times of need. During the recent ice storm that we just had, hydro crews came from all over Ontario to help restore power to our area. Many of them came through our service center. They told us that they were unable to find accommodations locally and were forced to stay in Peterborough, Belleville, Bracebridge, and even Kingston. This meant that they were spending 3 to 5 hours each day commuting during their 16-hour work shift. This is a valuable time that could have been spent restoring power to our residents. Just a few years ago, many of those same crews were able to stay locally in short-term rentals. This also matters a lot. I do want to be clear, though, I do support the regulations. I support responsible operation, and that is important. And there are several requirements that I fully agree with. Licensing should exist, but fees need to be reasonable and accessible and mainstreamed. A one-time registration fee with an annual renewal could provide more sustainable structure. Septic requirements should be based on current functionality and having a professional inspection rather than historical documentation that may no longer exist. Annual inspections by licensed septic professionals could also ensure that systems are functioning safely. Enforcement should be focusing on non-compliant operators rather than responsible property owners. All short-term rentals should carry proper insurance coverage. Each rental should have a local emergency contact that is available within an hour. However, some of the current rules that you are pushing out our responsible ownerships. If there are bad operators, they should absolutely be warned, fined, and if necessary, shut down permanently. But responsible owners should not be penalized for the actions of few. For many of these homeowners, short-term rentals are not large-scale businesses. They are simply a way to offset costs of maintaining a secondary property, allowing families to keep their cottages that may not otherwise be able to afford to maintain. What we actually need is balance. We need to bring practical thinking and common sense into the regulations that govern short-term rentals, because short-term rentals are not the problem. They support the tourism, they support local businesses, they help create jobs, and they even assist in supporting emergency response efforts when our community needs it the most. There is a path forward that protects the community's interests while also preserving the economic sustainability of our township. Because if visitors cannot stay here, they will not spend here. And if they do not spend here, small towns like ours do not survive. They slowly disappear. Our children will not stay here where there are no opportunities. They will leave to build their futures elsewhere. And when that happens, they don't come back. We should be building a future that welcomes responsible growth, not blocking it. When we continue to put up roadblocks, we are not protecting our community, we are holding it back. And in the long run, that will cost us far more than any thoughtful change ever will. The decisions made here today will help shape the future of our community, and I truly believe that we have the opportunity to choose a path that supports both responsible regulation and the long-term prosperity of our town. I encourage everyone here today, physically and on Zoom there, to take a look at the bigger picture. We all want the same thing. We want a community that is strong, vibrant, sustainable for generations to come. We need to work together to support our local economy, create opportunities for our young families, and build a future where people want to stay, work, and raise their families right here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lindsay. We have Stevie Zengel. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. There you go. Can you hear me? Perfect.
Yes.
First time here, and I'm really happy I actually came, and thank you for the council for having this meeting. It's very forward of you guys. The fact that I've heard so many other people and they've experienced the same complaints, I'm happy that I actually did show up because I didn't know how the overall public would maybe feel. I have provided kind of the statements that I wanted to make in this in advance. I don't know if I need to go through all of that again in person, but maybe I'll touch upon some of the main points and give some more examples to add on to those topics there. Okay.
Yep.
So one of the main things, and I think it was brought up a couple of times, was the septic, the vehicle, and the room capacity limitations for STR owners. When it comes to the guest capacity, it says that for every room you're allowed to have 2 people, but perhaps a room size should dictate that. So if a person has a master bedroom that's 1,000 square feet or the size of some people's living room, it doesn't really make sense that only 2 people could be in this room. Same thing with septic capacities. We know, and we've heard from different members that septic capacities are perhaps outdated, and there's better way to enforce those, such as if you are requesting a higher capacity at your cottage, more frequent pumpings, and then that way you're also keeping the economy flowing by investing in the gentleman that's going to be pumping, hopefully his local, so that way you're able to provide better economic feasibility for the Highlands East area. And then when it comes to the parking spots and the amount of people per vehicle, the current bylaw is saying that you have 2 people essentially per vehicle is what's permitted. But that also is not very true. Most vehicles are 4 or 5 seaters. So if every single parking spot, if you have only 2 on your property, essentially that means that you can only have 4 people, even though you might have a massive house that can house much more. Doesn't really make sense. So on top of that, you should have that for every vehicle, potentially 4 individuals or guests are permitted for every single parking spot. This is just upon the septic, vehicle capacity, and room capacity. Next, we have the encroachment agreement. And again, I think the first lady that spoke kind of hit it on the head there. But some other aspects of the encroachment agreement that I want to touch upon were obviously how it does not protect the public. It does not protect public access or reduce liability. Even with the encroachment agreement, the public can still walk across the shoreline allowance. Damage can still occur from boaters or passersby, and the municipality is not fully shielded from liability, even with an insurance policy that requires you to have liability on that area. If the damage that was done was not by an STR or an owner, no liability has been covered on the municipality's behalf. It creates unequal treatment. A regular homeowner can build a dock, use the road shore allowance, create the same environmental impacts, if not even worse, and is not required to obtain an encroachment agreement or carry any extra sort of insurance. It adds costs without adding benefit. The agreement does not reduce risk, prevent damage, or improve environmental protection. It simply adds bureaucracy to the STR owners while leaving identical uses by non-STR owners unregulated. If shoreline protection is important, then all shoreline users, not just STR owners, should be treated equally if we're going through the environmental aspects. Another part of the encroachment agreement is the shoreline allowance verification. Currently, STR owners can receive shoreline allowance violations, even though some docks don't require an encroachment agreement. Example, floating docks. The municipality lacks accurate site survey records showing where shoreline roads allowances actually are. I know this through the conversations I've had with Ms. Olivia and Tracy Evans in the process. Without the municipality evidence, STR owners must pay $5,000 or more for private surveys just to prove compliance, even though they might not actually require it. The rule provides no environmental or community benefit and mainly burdens STR owners with unnecessary bureaucracy. Regular homeowners with identical docks face none of these costs or requirements. It was brought up at one point about property values. Highlands East does not have a housing shortage. As of today, 24 detached homes are listed for sale in Highlands East, with half of them priced near below $500,000, far below the Ontario average of $839,000. This is not evidence of a housing crisis caused by STRs. As the gentleman mentioned, the property values have gone down. He said that it was because some of the owners of an STR were partying all night or whatever it might have been, and that is causing his neighbor's property value to potentially go down. Since 2020 of the COVID times, that was the highest prices cottage has ever been in the last 5 years. He then mentioned in the next 3 years that the property values have continuously gone down. That's not necessarily because of the STR owner that's next to the home. It's because of the market and that now everyone is able to travel to where they wanted to originally while COVID had everyone on lockdown. Enforcement. Enforcement is unclear, inconsistent, and vulnerable to abuse. And I think as some people have already mentioned, the bylaw does not clearly define what evidence is required in when claiming a violation and what is needed to be proven as evidence of a violation. And to give an example, with my current property, I put it as a long-term while I am still getting in the process of my STR license. Many times the software that is being used has flagged my account. I have gotten emails 3 times now that I am in violation of the STR rules. I've spoken to Olivia, sent 2 emails now that, hey, I've made it clear in my listing that it's 29 days. And also, as a minimum, you can't even book it for less than 29 days. Yet your program still keeps sending the same thing over and over. So we can clearly see that it is not effective. Also, what penalty, without knowing if people are falsely accusing complaints, it opens up the doors to much more complaints, which then again, now requires more enforcement and you will be going back and forth, back and forth. For example, a neighbor can call every day and say, I saw renters and there was no sign posted that this is an STR. And they were partying all night long. They could even create fake evidence and guess less trash on my property and just leave their own trash on the property. How do we prove that this is actually the case? What protections do STR owners have from harassment or false accusations from municipality and the members of the town? The appeals committee must include STR owners. An appeals committee that excludes STR owners cannot be considered impartial. A fair committee should include at least 1 STR owner, at least 1 non-resident, and at least 1 neutral technical expert. So example, if there's a situation going on about a septic situation, then there should obviously be a technical expert on septic systems. The bylaw creates administrative burden without solving the real problem. Municipal staff are spending significant time processing applications, septic documents, and inspections. Yet there is no evidence. Noise complaints have decreased, safety has improved, or environmental safety has improved, or community harmony has increased. Actually, I think from what we've heard today, it's done the opposite. Or has there been economic improvement in Highlands East with this new STRs? We heard the amounts of coming in from the program early on, but I don't think, as was mentioned in the beginning, that was the target of the STR program. The bylaw focuses on paperwork. not behavior. If the goal is to reduce nuisance issues, the solution is targeted enforcement of nuisance behavior, not blanket restrictions on responsible operators. Within Section 5 of the bylaw, all the expectations of the STR license holder are stated. But then within Section 5.16, the provisions of this bylaw shall not apply when the short-term rental is not rented. How does the municipality plan to enforce something like this, where there is no means of verification? Also, with this rule, suddenly capacities of the home and all the requirements no longer apply. To give an example, if I don't have a dock when I'm renting it out, but then I throw a dock out when it's my own personal use, who is going to verify that it was me there at that time and a neighbor just didn't take a picture of me on my dock? The same applies to the encroachment agreement. And this is the example that I just provided. STR are not the cause of community issues, and the restricting them will not fix anything. Highlands East does not have a housing affordability crisis, it has a housing demand crisis. STRs actually help the community, as it was brought up. They bring in visitors who spend money locally, they allow owners to maintain and improve their properties, they keep cottages occupied and cared for, so it doesn't become run down and then actually lose the value of the area. They introduce new people to the area, of some of whom eventually become residents. Even my personal cottage now, once my mom potentially decides to retire, this would be her place where she comes in to move. So it allows a way for people to actually be integrated into the society. In closing, I urge you to reconsider the current STR bylaws and its related requirements as written by the laws. Currently, they are unfair in capacity rules. Work with the STR with STR owners to create rules that make sense, as you are doing today, and I thank you. Do not have unnecessary enroachment requirements. If it is a financial aspect, I would bet that most of the STR owners will be happy to pay that just a $500 fee to have a dock on their water if they so require, but alleviate the insurance and the enroachment agreement, which are not helping anyone. It's by changing the STR bylaws, we're also not going to be harming the local businesses. We will be hopefully improving the enforcement of just places that are having issues and not a blanket policy. This way it'll stop becoming vulnerable to abuse, and hopefully we can put protections in place for the STR owners. I thank you for your time, and that's it.
Thanks very much, Stevie. Thank you. We have Karen Mourner. Welcome, Karen.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I left my reading glasses at home, so I'm going to be using my long arm. You know, some of the issues I was going to address. Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, thank you. Either that or, oh, they're great. Wonderful.
I was going to lend you mine.
Oh, I look really good in those. Yes. All righty. So I'm here as a tourism stakeholder, and I'm not going to discuss the things that have already been raised, but I will put them in for the record. But I'm here to talk about the abuse of power and the abuse of process in this system that was just touched on by this fellow. Thank you very much. I don't know your name. And what I want to share with you is that on May 26, 2005, I received a notice from the bylaw enforcement people, and that I was in violation, non-compliant for the STRs. I do not have an STR. I have communicated that many, many times. And Dave, you actually got copied on all that. And I don't want one. I will never have one because I don't agree with any of this process. And I'm not appealing because I don't have one. I've never applied for a license. I haven't been rejected for a license. I don't have an STR. And so what had happened in my case is that I was away because my brother has been very ill, and actually he passed away. I had to drive back and forth to Windsor. And the bylaw enforcement came into my property unannounced, uninvited. And this is all happening before there's a bylaw. Okay, so this did not happen after the bylaw. This happened before. And they came in when my husband was there, and my husband is not well. My husband communicated he wasn't the owner. He communicated he was not well. He has a head injury. He doesn't remember things. He doesn't communicate well. So they came in, and when they were in, they started to be intimidating about our sea containers, about our house being too close to the creek, about things that he wasn't even clear why they were there. So they introduced themselves. They did not leave a card. So when I get home, I have no idea who was there. And I have nobody I can contact to find this information about. I've since received communication from Haley Cole that she did leave a card, she and whoever her associate was, who I still don't know who the other person was who was there. So at that time, when we had the exchange back and forth with Haley Cole, what I was told was there had been a complaint. So I had a Facebook ad, not a face, I won't actually,
Karen,
not,
I
yes.
can, sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I think you're talking about Dysart, not about Highlands East.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the abuse of power and I'm talking about
Okay,
the
well,
abuse. So Robin, don't cut me off.
we're here and we're not going to
But
cut
I'm
you off.
also here, I haven't gotten to the tourism stakeholder part because this is about being a tourism stakeholder here in the county of Halliburton. And my business is part of this community too,
Oh,
here in Highlands.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly.
I'm
We're
here
here.
to continue.
No, nobody said we were going to cut you off. I just wanted to make the
I
public
am a
know
resident of
it is
Dysart
Dysart.
and my business affects this area.
And Dysart are going to be doing the same thing we're doing
And I
apparently.
get to do this twice.
Sure.
Excellent. All right. So, so what I was told was a complaint had been issued. So this is all happening before there's a law. This is happening even before I know there's going to be a bylaw. I'm not even aware of it. So I had a Facebook post like 2 years before this. I had one listing on Airbnb 2 years before this. I mean, a Facebook post that's 3 years later, nobody's going to look up. And this Airbnb listing, the virtue of having a listing or a Facebook post is not advertising, nor does it constitute a business. It is information. It constitutes maybe potential income. And I do not have a business. I was looking maybe for some supplementary income, but not with all of this hassle. And so as a result of all of this, my tax account, the property taxes, I have been charged, I've been fined, I've lost merit points. Why would I lose? I don't have an STR. I'm not going to appeal something I don't have. And so in terms of tourism in this area, when this happens, when this kind of excessive bylaw enforcement happens, and I don't even recognize that bylaw officer having any authority to come in unannounced. Like, why would you come in a clandestine, covert way? Why wouldn't you, like with the septic systems, make an appointment and say, there seems to be a complaint, we need to check this out? Why would you come in and then look at all kinds of other things just because you're coming in under the guise of something else? Okay, so I now do not advertise my business in this county. I do not want anything to do with any of this because this is not an economic development program. This is not a tourism program. This is not an employment program. I know too many people who have lost their house cleaning job, their maintenance job, their property management job, their anything to do with cottage care or home care. And so I cannot support that. And so something needs to be done about this because it's way out of hand. And this is a program that it's not even a bylaw program. It's a bylaw mechanism to enforce taxes, another level of taxes that have been levied onto a targeted group of people. It's discriminatory. And the people who run Airbnbs as a corporate enterprise, as a business, that's a whole other ballpark than the mom and pops and the people who are just looking for some supplementary income. And to cause this harassment and this grief And I'm speaking this here because I know I'm not the only one. And I think this fellow even said that, the fake complaints and that misuse, because people can hide behind, it's not anonymous, but I'm not giving anybody's name. I can't make a case for myself for which neighbor has been a problem that's been hassling and has an agenda. So, you know, this method is not okay. This is not a program, it's a tax. It's a tax that was geared toward certain people who were deemed bad and then got broad brushed to a wider group, and it's not working. And so it's not working to offset property taxes. It's not working for economic development and tourism. It's not working. And it's causing grief. It's causing anxiety in the community. It's not bringing community together. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I'm sure, Karen, I'm sure Dysart will be looking forward to your presentation as well.
I'll make it longer there. Thanks, Dave. You're going to be there too, because I noticed that the CEO of the county is, the economic development manager isn't here.
Yep.
The people who need to be here aren't here.
Okay. All right, we do have a written submission that has come in from, I saw it here someplace, Julie Funk, that has been documented. I just want to thank everybody. We've been gathering the information. We've been compiling everything that has been spoke about today, and then we are. I'm going to probably request another meeting. We're going to get probably a staff review of some of the stuff that's been said today, and I'm very willing to look at the bylaw. We understand that it does need a bit of tweaking, and we will certainly do that. But I just, again, want to thank everybody for coming and for their input, and just for being very part of this.
Yes, at this time, I would just like to, for the record, just mention the names that we did receive submissions from that didn't take part in presenting to council. That would be Andrew Gallagher, Cheryl Quantrell, Crystal Shannon, and Simon Fenn.
Okay, thank you. Confirmation bylaw.
That bylaw number 2026-34 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting of March 24th, 2026 be received, approved, and enacted.
Could I have someone move? Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Strong. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Adjournment.
That council adjourn the March 24th, 2026 meeting at 10:37 a.m. and to meet again on April 7th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. for the special meeting of council for the purpose of operations and planning matters.
If someone move, Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Strong. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you so much for attending and being part of this.